I did not discover the betrayal through lipstick on a collar or whispers in the night. No, I discovered it through laughter. My husband, Sergio, was in his study with the door slightly open, laughing in a tone I had not heard since our wedding day 25 years ago. It was not joy. It was triumph. It was victory. It was the sound of a man who believed he had already won a game I did not know we were playing. I froze in the hallway, clutching the glass of water in my hand as I listened. His voice was calm, cold, calculated. "Make sure we lock down her assets before she finds out," he told someone over the phone. "She trusts me completely. She will never see it coming. Once the divorce papers are ready, I will serve her on a weekend. That way she will not freeze anything before the courts do." My heart did not shatter like fragile glass. It hardened like steel set on fire. I did not gasp. I did not scream. I stepped back quietly, each breath as controlled as a sniper taking aim. Sergio was not cheating with another woman. He was cheating with greed, and greed was far more dangerous. That was the moment I buried the wife he thought he knew. What he did not know was that he had just awakened the woman I used to be, the woman who built a $500 million empire from the dust of bankruptcy. And she was not going to lose to a smile that lied. Because if I was going to be betrayed in silence, then I would answer in silence. And my silence would be louder than any war cry he had ever heard. Before I continue, I want to take a moment to appreciate each one of you watching this right now. To all my loyal subscribers, you are the heartbeat of this channel. And to every new or returning viewer who has not yet subscribed, I am grateful that you are here. And I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. Your engagement, your comments, your support, they are the fuel that keeps this channel alive and burning with power. So do not just watch. Talk to me in the comments. Let me know what you would have done if you were in my shoes. Now, let us get back into the storm. My name is Erica, and I am 53 years old. I live in Omaha, Nebraska, in a 4-story glass house that overlooks a lake. People call it a mansion. I call it a museum of effort. Every brick, every window, every art piece hanging on those walls was purchased with sweat and sacrifice. I was not born into wealth. I built it from the ground up. I started with a small logistics company when I was 28 years old. I expanded into agricultural transport, then renewable energy investments, then commercial real estate. Before I turned 45, my net worth had crossed $100 million. Today, it stands proudly at $500 million. And beside me through that journey was Sergio, the handsome high school teacher with kind eyes and soft hands. He was never as ambitious as I was, but I did not care. I believed that love did not need balance, only faith. I trusted him with everything, my heart, my secrets, my life, my wealth. But somewhere along the way, love became entitlement, and entitlement became strategy. We were sitting at dinner the night before I overheard that conversation. Sergio had cooked steak, medium rare, exactly how I liked it, and poured my favorite Cabernet Sauvignon. He asked me about my day. He complimented my new necklace, he laughed at my jokes, and he kissed my forehead before bed. The next morning, he was planning my financial execution. Do you know how it feels to sleep next to a man who is sharpening a knife behind your back while holding you with the other hand? You do not cry. You calculate. I did not confront him. That was what he expected. An emotional reaction, tears, rage, begging. But he had forgotten that I was not just his wife. I was also a strategist, a builder, a survivor. And he had just declared war. But wars are not won with weapons. They are won with patience. So I smiled at him the next morning, like nothing had happened. I made him coffee. I kissed his cheek. I told him I would be working late. But instead of going to the office, I went somewhere else. somewhere he would never expect. And that was the day I began quietly moving $500 million out of his reach. But that is only the beginning, because what I discovered next made his betrayal feel like a joke. And it was not Sergio who frightened me. It was who had been standing beside him long before I ever suspected. I spent the next 3 days studying my husband like a criminal returning to the scene of his own crime. I watched the way he touched my shoulder when he walked past me in the kitchen. I counted the seconds it took him to reply whenever I said, "I love you." I noted how he looked into my eyes, not with devotion, but with calculation. A strange calm lived inside me. Not peace, calculation. I no longer saw him as my husband. I no longer saw him as the man I once dreamed of growing old with. No, I saw him as a threat, a man who had chosen battle. And like every successful strategist, I knew that the greatest victories were not won with violence. They were won with silence. I called the only person I trusted outside my own skin, Beatrice. She had been my friend for 28 years. She was also my legal advisor, my confidant, and the one person who could read my emotions before I even spoke. When I called her and said, "I need to see you," alone, no questions on the phone, she did not argue. She simply replied, "I will clear my schedule." We met at my private office, not the headquarters where cameras and assistants would roam, but the one hidden in a quiet industrial district I had purchased years ago for discreet negotiations. No luxury furniture, just a large oak desk, 2 chairs, and silence. I sat across from her. "Something happened," she said softly. "I see it." I nodded once. "Sergio's planning to divorce me. He wants my assets. He is working with someone." Beatrice did not gasp. She did not dramatize it. She simply leaned forward and said the most important words I needed to hear. "Then we strike first." No tears, no pity, no weakness, just strategy. She opened her laptop and began outlining legal walls so thick they would make even the most aggressive divorce attorney choke. She proposed a financial redirection of all liquid assets into an irrevocable trust under a different operating structure, with me as the beneficiary, but not the owner in legal appearance. She advised transferring real estate titles quietly into holding companies in Wyoming, a state known for silent ownership. "Once everything is protected," she said with precision, "you will file first, not with fear, with dominance. He will not get a dime from what you built before he sharpened his knife." We worked for hours, every number documented, every file checked, every loophole sealed. But there was one more thing I needed: information. I needed to know how deep the betrayal ran, whether Sergio was acting alone or whether there were more shadows waiting to surface. So Beatrice made a call. 2 days later, a man named Anthony walked into my office. He was in his late 40s, clean cut, dark suit, no emotion in his voice. He introduced himself with a brief nod. "I am a private investigator, discreet, effective, loyal to payment." That was all I needed. I handed him a small file with every detail about Sergio: his recent habits, his schedule, his friends, his phone numbers, his email addresses, his social media accounts. Everything a good wife notices when she loves. Everything a betrayed woman weaponizes when she wakes up. Anthony studied the file in silence. Then he looked up and said something that sent a chill down my spine. "How far do you want me to dig?" I leaned forward, locking eyes with him. "Until you find who is standing in the shadows beside him." For the next week, I lived 2 lives. In the daylight, I was the loving wife. I cooked, I smiled, I asked about his day. I touched his arm when I passed by in the kitchen. I even planned a fake weekend getaway to keep him comfortable. At night, I signed transfer documents. I moved money across continents. I whispered instructions to Beatrice. I slept with my phone pressed to my chest. Every morning I woke up expecting him to make his move first, but he did not, because he thought I was still asleep. 7 days into my silent war, I received a message from Anthony. Report ready, meet in person, urgent. My heart did not pound, it froze. I met him in the same dimly lit private office. He placed a thick envelope on the desk and slid it towards me. This is not just betrayal. This is orchestration, and it did not start recently. I stared at the envelope without touching it. What do you mean? He exhaled slowly. Your husband did not come up with this plan. He was guided. By who? He looked me dead in the eye. Someone close to both of you, someone you would never suspect, and it began long before you built your empire. My throat tightened. I say the name, I whispered. He did. And for the first time since the betrayal began, I felt rage. Raw, burning, personal. It was not Sergio who had started this war. It was someone I had once trusted like blood. I stared at Anthony, waiting for him to repeat the name. Not because I did not hear it the first time, but because my mind refused to accept it. Mildred, Sergio's mother. My mother-in-law. 82 years old. Frail, soft-spoken, the kind of woman who wore floral dresses and sniffed lavender oil before bed. The woman who knitted me a scarf every Christmas. The woman who hugged me at family dinners like I was her treasure. That was the woman who had been plotting my downfall. Explain, I said, my voice steady, but my fingers tightening against the chair. Anthony opened the envelope and laid out printed emails and transcribed recordings. Each word was a blade. Each message was a revelation. 3 years ago, Mildred had sent Sergio a message. You are a fool if you let her die with all that wealth in her name. She will leave it to charity or some foundation. That is how these businesswomen think. You need protection. 2 years ago, encourage her to put properties in both your names. Tell her it is for legacy. 1 year ago, find a lawyer who understands divorce strategy before she does. Women like her always anticipate too late. 6 months ago, she trusts you. She sees you as harmless. That is your strength. Use it. I felt my jaw tremble for the first time since the war began. I pressed my nails into my palm until I felt pain. Real pain. Human pain. I could handle betrayal from Sergio. Men betray. Husbands fall to greed. It was not new to me. But his mother? The woman who once held my hand and said, "You are the daughter I never had?" Anthony continued. She even scouted the divorce attorney. She met him first, privately. She was the architect. Sergio was only the executor. For a moment, I could not move. Not because I was broken, but because I had never been more awake. I stood up slowly, collected every document from the table, and looked at Anthony. Thank you. This is not just betrayal. This is declaration. He nodded once. I walked out of that office, not as Erica the wife, not as Erica the businesswoman. I walked out as Erica the reckoning. That night, I returned home to the orchestra of lies that had become my household. Sergio was grilling salmon in the backyard. Jazz music played softly from the patio speakers. He turned when he saw me and smiled like nothing was wrong. Hey, gorgeous, you're home early. I smiled back. Oh, I missed you. I thought I would surprise you. And I walked into his arms. He wrapped his arms around me, his lips brushing my forehead, completely unaware that I now knew the truth, not only about him, but about the woman who had raised him. Dinner will be ready in 10, he said. Why don't you get comfortable? I nodded sweetly. Sure, but before that, I paused. He turned. I want to call your mother, I said. I haven't spoken to her this week. He chuckled. She'll be thrilled. She adores you. Oh, I bet she does. I dialed her number on speaker. Hello, her soft voice floated through the phone. Hi, Mama Mildred, I said with warmth, staring into Sergio's unsuspecting eyes. I was just thinking about you. Oh, sweetheart, how are you? I smiled. Better than ever. She laughed gently. I am glad. You deserve all the happiness in the world. I looked into Sergio's eyes as I replied, Oh, don't worry. I plan to keep it that way. I hung up. Sergio grinned. You two have such a sweet bond. I nodded slowly. Yes, sweeter than you could ever imagine. Later that night, he slept beside me, arm draped across my waist like a man in love. His breathing slow, peaceful, safe. He truly believed I was still blind, but if he had looked closely, just once, he would have seen that my eyes were wide open. The next morning, I told Beatrice everything. She leaned back in her chair and exhaled sharply. So your mother-in-law is the puppeteer. Not surprising. Dangerous women are rarely loud. I nodded. She continued. We proceed. But now it will not just be legal, it will be poetic. I leaned forward. She continued. We will not only strip him of access, we will strip him of comfort, dignity, illusion. And her? I asked. She smiled. She will watch it all unfold. That night, I cooked dinner myself. Candlelight, soft music, perfect ambiance. Halfway through the meal, I set my fork down and looked at Sergio. I've been thinking, I said softly, about our marriage, about what legacy we leave together. He smiled, pleased. I'm listening. I reached across the table and held his hand. I want to give you a gift. His brows lifted. What kind of gift? I smiled. The kind that changes your life forever. His eyes glowed with greed disguised as affection, and I knew. He thought he was finally winning. But what he didn't know was that I was done playing wife. I was about to play judge, jury, and executioner. The morning I chose to end my marriage, I did not cry. I did not pace. I did not hesitate. I stood in front of the mirror, buttoning a navy blue suit. Not a dress, not something soft or sentimental. A suit. The armor of a warrior who had already won before stepping onto the battlefield. When I walked into the kitchen, Sergio was eating breakfast, blueberry pancakes and bacon, his favorites. I had made them for him. Morning, love, he said, with that same smile that once warmed me and now sickened me. I smiled back. Morning. I left something for you on the counter. It is a surprise. His eyes lit up. He thought it was a transfer, a property deed, a gift. It was a divorce petition, filed, final, irrevocable. His fork froze in midair as he saw the legal stamp on the document. He looked at me in disbelief. What? What is this? I sat across from him calmly. This, I said softly, is what happens when a man mistakes silence for weakness. He blinked rapidly. His voice shook with faux confusion. Erica, I do not understand. I cut him off. Do not insult me with lies. I know everything. The calls, the meetings, the strategy, the plans to freeze my assets before you served me. His face drained of color. Listen, it was not, do not bother. You were never the mastermind. You were the puppet. His confusion flickered into panic. What do you mean? I held up the printed emails. His mother's words. His mother's venom. His mouth fell open. You talked to her? No. I talked to the investigator. I talked to the lawyer she hired. I talked to every single person who conspired with you before you even realized you were conspiring. He trembled. Erica, please, we can fix this. I leaned forward, voice as cold as February wind. You tried to bury me. You forgot I own the land. He swallowed. So what now? I folded my hands. Now you leave. He froze. I will not leave my own house. I smiled. This house is not yours. The deed was moved to a holding company last week. The cars? Leased under my corporation. The accounts? Gone. The stocks? Relocated. Everything you thought you were entitled to? I tilted my head. Air. His breath hitched. He tried to gather rage, but even that failed him. You cannot do this to me. Oh, I already did. He stood, chest heaving. I will take you to court. I will drag this out. I stood as well, meeting him eye to eye. And I will show the court every email from your mother instructing you to loot your own wife like a vulture. He froze. You would not drag her into this. She already dragged herself. Silence fell like a guillotine. Get out, Sergio, before I forget mercy. He stood there for a long moment, shaking, speechless. Then, quietly, he left. 2 hours later, I received a call. It was Mildred. Her voice was sharp this time. No softness, no lavender. You evil woman! You destroyed my son! I held the phone to my ear, pacing slowly by the window. No, Mildred. I prevented your son from destroying me. You will regret this. No, you will regret teaching your son that betrayal is easier than honesty. She was silent. For the first time, she had nothing to say. I ended the call. The divorce was swift, brutal in its precision, clean in its execution. He walked away with nothing but his clothes, his guilt, and his mother's silence. People expected me to celebrate, to host parties, to post triumphant speeches, but I did not celebrate. I sat alone in my living room one evening, looking out at the sunset reflecting on the lake. I asked myself quietly, was I sad? No. I was free. Not because I won the war, but because I refused to let betrayal define me. Wealth can be rebuilt. Trust cannot. Protect your heart, but protect your legacy harder. Love fully, but love with wisdom. Never allow someone to feed on your kindness while sharpening a knife behind you. And if you ever discover betrayal, do not beg, do not plead, do not panic. Go silent, move quietly, strike once, walk away clean. Thank you for listening to my story. Now I want to hear yours. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like this video, share it with someone who needs strength today, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Until the next chapter of life, this is Erica, and I am still standing.